think Twitter, I think the students are using that as their personal form of expression. So when they have their thoughts about the weather or their thoughts about, a class or an event on campus, that's where they're kind of just putting it out in 140 characters. It's varied student to student. I think that's something important to remember, that as with all social media, how one person utilizes it and what they gain from it can be very different from the person next to them. Every day there's more and more people joining social media in its various forms. I believe there was a statistic today where there are 800 million people on Facebook alone across the world. And providing information about who we are and what we do, we can reach students, globally that we've never reached before, and take the Bloomfield College brand and take the Bloomfield College experience international. So that's, a great tool for us moving forward into the 21st century.
It opens the conversation up with the student. We need to reach them through social media because that's one of the ways they're reaching us. And we get to engage with them online, Facebook, Twitter, let them see what's happening with the college, and then they tell us what's happening with them. And then they come in for a visit. They meet an admission counselor at a fair. They come to an open house. So that social media just starts the conversation. And it really is helpful by the time they get to apply, get accepted, enroll for their classes. I mean, they're using it to engage with their friends. Mm-hmm. They're using it to tell the world what they like and what they don't like. And that helps us. In general, people are talking about what they do like. That's what I see. People are talking about places they've been and happy events and things that are happening out there in their lives that they want to share. It's like an online smile.
One interesting thing about these revolutions is a lot of people focus on how Facebook and Twitter were kind of the components that led to the revolution itself. But there was other factors besides that. I mean, the unemployment rate in a lot of these countries are upwards of 30% amongst the youth, 25 and younger. It's upwards of 40%. So you had a lot of people who were discontent with what was going on. And interestingly, they say, social media played a huge part in this revolution, but you look back historically and, social media always played a pretty big part in any revolution. So there's always social media. Social media, I think, has a lot of attention today. People not really realizing it's always been social media that sparks a revolution, because people have to communicate to do that. It's always been about networking, but just the means of networking that have changed. And people were still able to organize. Why? Because yes, you do rely on the internet and technology, but at the end of the day, I don't think writing or print will ever be outmoded, because it's something that can never be controlled, whereas technology, it is possible to be controlled.
So
to realize government's main interest is stability, and stability equaling status quo, no change whatsoever. That is a question that people do debate, whether or not the government can respond to people quicker. And it has pros and cons, but the pros are pretty limited, and the cons are, in my view, very outstanding. One of them being that the government's main interest is stability, and this is known, this is written. And stability being status quo being no change whatsoever. I think that is something wrong. I think that Assange has to, if he wants to be looked at as a credible source, follow the regulations and guidelines of what a journalist must do. And if the source wasn't given to you by a person, you should list them as anonymous and take out those names. So I feel there he is wrong. Very savvy, internet savvy, technology savvy people. So on that hand of accessibility, Twitter and Facebook are much more easy to access. I wouldn't say that it at all played a role in the Arab Spring. I think regardless of WikiLeaks, these people knew what was going on in their communities firsthand, not through a secondary source, and especially not through a secondary source that was dealing with the elite, the diplomats, the military. These are everyday people with everyday problems. Yes, it does point out corruption within the government, but those people would have been at those streets regardless of whether they knew what diplomats were saying at the higher end.